12 a.m., Montecito, California. The Pacific Ocean is silent, the streets are empty, and inside one of the most talked about homes in America, the lights are still on. But this story isn't really about a house, it's about what that house came to represent. This is the estate purchased by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle after they stepped away from royal life in 2020. And when two of the most globally recognized public figures make a move, the world does not whisper, it speculates. For years, that Montecito property symbolized far more than square footage. It represented independence from the monarchy, distance from royal protocol, and a public declaration that they were building a future on their own terms. It marked the beginning of their American chapter. Now, however, reports suggest something may be shifting. There has been no dramatic announcement, no farewell interview, no orchestrated media moment, just subtle signs and quiet real estate movement. And people operating at that level rarely make property decisions without a strategy behind them. So the real question is not simply whether they are leaving. It is why now. Is it financial recalibration? A strategic pivot? A lifestyle upgrade? Or simply the natural evolution of a life that has never followed a traditional script? Supporters and critics may disagree on many things, but one pattern is clear: their major decisions have never appeared random. They stepped back from royal duties, they relocated across continents, they built independent media ventures, they reshaped their public identity outside palace structures. Each move carried intention. If the Montecito estate is transitioning, it is unlikely to be emotional, it is far more likely to be strategic. Because when it comes to wealth, influence, and reinvention, the truth is rarely dramatic. But it is always calculated. What we know is straightforward. In 2020, shortly after stepping back as senior working royals, they purchased a Montecito estate valued at approximately $14.65 million. The choice of location was deliberate. Montecito is known for privacy, discretion, and influential residents, including figures such as Oprah Winfrey and other prominent business and media personalities. For Harry and Meghan, the property offered four essentials: privacy, space, security, and distance from British media culture. It was not just a move, it was repositioning. Since settling there, they signed major production agreements with streaming platforms, launched podcasts, released documentaries, expanded Arcuel into both a foundation and media brand, and entered global speaking and publishing arenas. The estate became more than a residence. It functioned as a headquarters, a production base, a fortified private space, and a symbol of American reinvention. If it is now being quietly prepared for sale, the word panic does not fit. A more accurate word would be purpose. Now let's talk numbers realistically. Owning a high-profile estate in California at that level comes with serious layered costs. A multi-million-dollar mortgage if the property were financed. Significant property taxes in Santa Barbara County. Luxury-grade insurance coverage designed for high-value homes. Extensive landscaping and estate maintenance for large acreage. Full-time or rotational staff. Utilities for a property with more than a dozen bathrooms, guest quarters, and expansive grounds. And ongoing upgrades because estates of that size are never static, they require continuous improvement, reinforcement, and modernization. But the largest expense most people underestimate is security. For globally recognized figures like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, private security is not optional, it is structural. That means 24/7 trained personnel, rotating shifts to avoid predictability, advanced surveillance systems, hardened perimeter infrastructure, cybersecurity layers, and professional risk assessment teams. It also extends beyond the home, travel security units, advanced teams for public appearances, and coordination with local authorities. Industry estimates suggest that annual security alone for individuals at their visibility level can run into the millions. Now here's where the analysis becomes more grounded. Since 2020, their financial model fundamentally shifted. They moved from partial royal institutional support to fully independent income streams. The reported media and publishing deals were substantial, but large contracts in entertainment are rarely simple lump sum payments. They are milestone-based. Performance-based, structured around deliverables, and they come with production expenses, legal fees, staffing costs, agents, managers, public relations teams, corporate taxes, and operational overhead. Revenue headlines do not equal net profit. Gross numbers are not take-home income. So, is a potential sale about financial pressure? In the dramatic, crisis-driven sense, unlikely. But could it be about capital optimization? Absolutely. High net worth individuals routinely rebalance portfolios. Real estate is an asset class, not an emotional anchor. When markets shift, when industries recalibrate, when cash flow structures evolve, asset allocation follows. Selling a property can mean downsizing for efficiency, upgrading to a more secure compound, relocating closer to business partners, reducing overhead, or freeing capital for new ventures and long-term investments. Or, and this is equally realistic, 5 years may simply represent a natural life cycle. The Montecito estate served its purpose. It represented the breakaway phase from royal life, the reset phase in America, the proving phase of financial independence. But once proof of concept is established, consolidation often follows. Fewer symbols, more structure, less performance, more stability. Public perception tends to frame every move as crisis or triumph, but wealth does not operate on emotion. It operates on leverage. If the Montecito chapter is closing, it likely means something else is opening. Because for figures operating at that level, homes are not just residences, they are positioning tools. Geography affects branding. Visibility affects influence. Privacy affects longevity. Before headlines declare instability, it is worth watching the timing. Watching partnerships. Watching future acquisitions. Watching business filings. The most powerful moves in elite circles are rarely announced with drama. They unfold quietly and strategically. And when global figures shift assets, it is almost never random. That's not scandal. That's standard for internationally recognized public figures. What's important to understand is this: selling property does not automatically signal financial distress. In high-level wealth management, asset restructuring is routine. Ultra-wealthy individuals frequently sell to rebalance portfolios, reduce real estate exposure, increase liquidity, relocate for tax efficiency, or consolidate security infrastructure. The narrative of collapse generates clicks. The narrative of financial strategy does not. Now let's address the inevitable question: does any of this signal a change in royal status? Prince Harry remains the son of King Charles III. He remains in the line of succession. He is no longer a working royal, but there has been no official decree removing titles, no parliamentary action, no constitutional amendment, and no formal restructuring announcement from the British royal family. Institutional change within the monarchy does not happen overnight. It requires legal frameworks, formal statements, and often parliamentary procedure in the United Kingdom. Speculation spreads quickly. Protocol moves slowly. And in royal matters, protocol always prevails. Strategically, the Sussex identity has always balanced two powerful forces: royal legacy and independent global celebrity branding. In 2020, after stepping back as senior working royals, that balance tilted heavily toward independence. They entered the American media economy, signed production agreements, positioned themselves as content creators and cultural commentators, and built ventures outside palace structures. But by 2023 and 2024, the broader media landscape began to shift. Streaming platforms tightened budgets. Content pipelines slowed. Large-scale development deals across Hollywood were reassessed. The era of aggressive expansion gave way to fiscal discipline. This was not personal. It was structural. Entertainment economics matured. Against that backdrop, any asset adjustment today looks far less like scandal and far more like recalibration. Industries evolve. Markets contract and expand, brand strategies refine, and individuals operating at global scale adjust accordingly. Reinvention, especially at this level, is not a single dramatic event. It is an ongoing process of refinement, strategic, deliberate, and often quiet. Across Hollywood, streaming platforms have reduced budgets, tightened risk, and reassessed large-scale content deals. Podcast divisions have been consolidated, and multi-year agreements once announced with excitement have quietly been restructured. This shift has not targeted one couple or one brand, it has been industry-wide. The entertainment economy that expanded rapidly during the streaming boom has matured into a more cautious, profit-focused environment. Expansion has given way to efficiency. Within that context, if Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are adjusting assets, it aligns more with market recalibration than with scandal. When an industry tightens, high-profile operators often tighten with it. That can mean fewer large productions, more selective partnerships, tighter brand control, increased privacy, and long-term repositioning. Stepping back in that environment is not retreat, it is reset. Online discourse, however, rarely allows for balance. Narratives swing between extremes, either they're collapsing or they're secretly winning. Reality is usually more measured. The Montecito estate symbolized independence, the break from institutional life, and proof of financial autonomy. If it were sold, that would not automatically signal decline. It could represent maturity, stability, or strategic refinement. High-profile figures often relocate once the symbolic phase of a transition has served its purpose. The first home after a public departure carries emotional weight. The next move carries calculation. And calculation rarely comes with spectacle. Royal history adds further context. Transitions outside the core working structure of the British royal family tend to quieten over time. Roles evolve, public attention softens, distance becomes normalized. The monarchy does not move on social media timelines, it moves deliberately, procedurally, and slowly. Not explosively, not reactively, slowly. Modern media, by contrast, amplifies every development. In 2025, perception travels faster than verification. Headlines are drafted within minutes, narratives form within hours, and assumptions solidify within days. But constitutional reality and institutional change unfold over years, not news cycles. So if something is shifting in Montecito, it does not automatically mean a crisis. It may simply mean transition. For figures like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who have already redefined their public roles once, another recalibration would not be surprising. Reinvention is rarely one dramatic event, it is usually a gradual process. There are three realistic possibilities. First, relocation within California for stronger privacy and upgraded security. Montecito made sense in 2020, but security needs and media patterns evolve. Moving to a larger or more secure property would be strategic risk management, not instability. Second, a multi-property strategy. Global public figures often maintain more than one base for family, business, and long-term positioning. Geographic flexibility can support tax planning, operational convenience, and cross-border commitments. For Prince Harry, whose life still connects the UK and the US, mobility signals adaptability, not uncertainty. Third, a quieter phase. The first years after leaving royal duties were highly visible: documentaries, interviews, podcasts, publishing. That was the proving stage. But sustainable public brands often scale back after expansion. Fewer appearances, more control, selective projects. For Meghan especially, reduced visibility could be intentional. Silence, at this level, can be a strategy. None of this automatically signals collapse. It reflects evolution, and evolution is usually quieter than headlines suggest. None of these scenarios equals collapse. All of them are equal transitions. If the Montecito chapter is ending, it does not automatically represent failure. It may represent evolution. The first home after leaving royal life carried symbolism. It was the Declaration of Independence. It was the American reset. It was proof of concept. But once proof is established, the next phase becomes about optimization, reducing unnecessary exposure, reallocating capital, tightening operations, and strengthening long-term positioning. Property changes are business decisions. Brand shifts are strategic decisions. Public narratives, however, are emotional reactions shaped by headlines. and emotion is rarely aligned with financial reality. The real question is not, are they falling? The more relevant question is, what phase are they entering next? Influence does not always disappear. Sometimes it restructures. Sometimes it becomes quieter and more deliberate. Sometimes it moves behind the scenes. History shows that high-profile exits are dramatic. But sustainable reinvention is subtle. And subtle moves rarely trend, they mature over time. Whether this is a privacy pivot, a financial recalibration, a cross-continental restructuring, or simply a family choosing a different rhythm, one pattern remains consistent since 2020. Major decisions have been deliberate. Nothing has suggested randomness. Every shift has aligned with a broader repositioning strategy. In today's media climate, perception travels faster than verification. Headlines amplify. Social media polarizes. Narratives harden within hours. But institutional reality and long-term wealth management operate on entirely different timelines. So if Montecito is changing hands, the louder interpretation is likely the weaker one. Strategic repositioning rarely announces itself with drama. It unfolds quietly, deliberately, and with long-term intent. Time not trending topics will reveal the next chapter. If you value structured analysis over online noise. If you prefer context instead of chaos. If you want clarity instead of clickbait. Make sure you subscribe to Windsor Files. Turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown. Share this episode with someone who values facts over frenzy. And as always, thank you for watching, thank you for thinking critically, and